There are a lot of layers when you grow up with an alcoholic, and I will be using my voice to share what is normal. Because that day, my favorite person died, and so did my top abuser, at least emotionally. And that is a lot to hold at once.
Welcome to the Grounded in Self podcast, where we become so rooted in who we are that we can dance with the strongest of winds, feel cleansed by the heaviest of rains, know that we are whole without our leaves, and stay grounded no matter where life takes us. This podcast is for anyone that's in their spiritual or self-growth era that just wants the whole thing to feel human again. That they can have a permission slip to not be perfect and understand that you are whole just as you are and allowed to desire growth. I am your host, Christina Horn. I am a somatic embodiment coach, a facilitator, and a business owner. But most importantly, I am a woman in the messy process of becoming, and I'm here to teach you the lessons I've learned thus far and continue to grow alongside you all. So if you are looking to become grounded in yourself, to live a life that feels yummy, and come back to the power that is inherently yours, you are in the right place. Come on in, baby. I'm so excited to have you as part of my family.
How did I get here? Ba, 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 ba. How did I hope you liked my rendition of Odessa. And welcome to this week's episode of Grounded in Self, where we will be talking about how I, Christina motherfucking Horn, got here on my couch in front of a microphone, speaking to you all and sharing my own journey, my lessons, my fumbles, and my wisdom. Because I think it's important, if you're going to listen to this podcast, to know what I've been through, know what some of my struggles have looked like, know what my wins have looked like, and just have a context to what I've moved through, what I'm currently moving through, and what keeps me going. And before we hop into this episode, I want to give a gentle warning to anyone that may be sensitive to specific topics. This might not be the episode for you. While I am going to riff a little, you might say I'm looking at my notes because if not, we would be here for 3 hours. Topics that may come up and will probably come up are death, suicidal ideation, alcohol and substance abuse, possibly sexual assault if I want to go into that one. If you're sensitive to those topics, we'll see you next week. And there's no judgment on that. Do what's best for you. All right, let's dive in. So, one thing that I think differentiates my life from many people that is a rare occurrence is that my life now was made off of many decisions, conscious and unconscious, because in an essence, I got the rare experience, a front row seat to what it would look like if I took the path that other people taught me, if I moved in a way that seemed normal or seemed like what you were supposed to do or acted like a lot of my behaviors were okay. I got to see firsthand what surmounted from that. And I don't know many people that can say the same. And we'll go into it a bit more, but how I got to see that was through my dad. It has taken me a long time to admit that me and my dad are very similar. I look like my mom, but my heart, my soul, my passion, my drive, my creativity, that is mostly my father. And for a very long time, that scared the hell out of me. But in realizing that, in coming to face that, I got this really beautiful gift of the universe being like, if you want to go down this way, here's what you might find. Is that your choice? And the fact that I'm sitting here now proves it is not. So let's give you a little context to explain that. I was born and raised in sunny San Diego, where I am currently after leaving and coming back. I have two amazing parents, very creative. The number one thing in my household was art. My parents met because my dad was a commercial producer and my mom was a graphic artist. Our house was filled with paintings and drawings and crafts. And then from my dad, music. He wrote, sang, and played many instruments. I didn't realize until I was older how rare and beautiful it was to have two parents that just really loved to explore creativity and storytelling and imagination and bringing things to life and projects and all that. It's not seen too often, but it was second nature to me. It was something beautiful that I'm very thankful for. And I also grew up with an older brother. He is my protector to this day. He is the person that made me so tough and also someone that I really admire and get to be led by. So growing up, I was very creative. I was very social. I had so many friends. I could make friends with anyone. I was super bossy, a leader since day one. And something about my life that really painted a lot of it in a really interesting way is that my parents both grew up middle class. Their families didn't have a whole bunch of extra money to like go play around with, and that allowed us to have humble beginnings. My parents always were very like, you don't need brand name, you don't need all these things. Like, money in itself is something that not everyone has. And so we're not going to act like having it is not a blessing, because while they grew up middle class, after I was born, a few years later, my dad started a company that did really, really well. And we quickly went from living in a 2-bedroom home to living in a nice house in a nice neighborhood. And I bring this all up because it allowed me to be raised in this really weird juxtaposition where my parents didn't really care about brand names and all that. My dad got swept up into it a little bit because he really wanted to prove his worth and da da da. That's his whole thing. But I grew up around all these people, multi-millionaires that had everything they could want and just never really seemed happy. I longed to look at families that just didn't have anything but were so close in connection because I didn't see that around me very much. And a big part, the biggest part of my childhood that really changed who I was and brought me to who I am today is that my father was an alcoholic. And go back and forth on using that word because I think it paints a picture of someone that's like a deadbeat, not doing anything. No, my dad was extremely successful. My dad was the coolest person you would meet and also had a really dark side. And growing up, that was something we kept behind walls. Most people didn't know it. And I always thought that was like such a rare thing that people had family issues or were really living in a place of walking on eggshells and worrying about what their parents' mood was for how the mood would go for the whole household until I got older and realized that's not that uncommon. We just don't talk about it, which is one of the reasons I'm going to sit here and talk about it, at least of it. But yeah, it made me feel very confused as a kid because what I've read is it's actually easier to have a parent that's just a piece of shit because you just learn they're a piece of shit and you just don't go to them for anything or you don't rely on them. But my dad was amazing and also had major demons he did not know how to handle. And that tore the fuck out of my family. So much so that when I was 13, my mom, my brother, and I finally left my dad. We had to do it for our safety. We were always holding our breath. And finally, we were done. My mom hit a breaking point of learning she could not outlove my dad through his misbehaviors. And so when I was in middle school, we moved out and my mom became a single mom. Luckily, we had financial stability. which I know a lot of people don't. So that's a huge blessing in not having another pressure when you're going through all this. But at 13, it was confusing. I really started to raise myself. My mom was there, but she was going through her own mental health journey. I have so much love and compassion for her for just being physically present. And my brother was a teenager going through the same hardships, even more hardships because him and my dad had a different relationship. So I kind of became alone. And I did what maybe not a lot of 13-year-olds would do, but I became super, super social. I didn't know how to actually be alone because I felt so lonely. And then I learned the unhealthy coping mechanisms that I saw in my father. I started to drink. Not long after I started smoking weed, I think at like 15, I started looking for validation in external relationships, in romantic relationships. I luckily had a really strong head on my shoulders, but I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I thought I had to, and in essence, pave my own path, but also follow the one that was in front of me. And that turned into being a social butterfly who drank way more than she should have. And I mean, you're not supposed to drink at all back then. Who knows what it did to my brain development, but it was a common thing. I got in with some people that weren't necessarily that good for me, and it really painted the rest of my life for so, so many years. But on the outside, I looked like I was doing well. I obviously had a lot of friends. I wouldn't say I was necessarily popular, but I knew a lot of people. My mom allowed us to throw parties. She, of course, did not realize that we were drinking, but she allowed me to have people over and really fostered allowing me to have such deep friendships. And I'm really grateful for that. I had good grades, but I was so often sick. I was paralyzed by migraines quite often. I missed so much school. It was ridiculous. But I kept my shit together. I looked like I was doing well. I didn't drop the ball in any area of my life because I honestly really didn't think I was allowed to. I really felt the need to hold all that weight. And I have so much love and compassion for that middle school and high school girl that did. And there are lots of things that we can discuss in my developing years on different episodes, but know that she went through a lot of shit. A lot. And she always came out the other side. But she internalized a lot of it without knowing. We all do this. I stored so much of that in my body without knowing. My mental health started to go. I just felt like I had to keep meeting other people's standards. My school that I went to was very stuck up. If you did not go to a 4-year, you were pissing away your life. So all this comes to fruition. This is my big rock bottom, if I had a rock bottom. When I go to school at Arizona State University, the first thing I did when I went to that school was get diagnosed with severe anxiety and depression. I cried basically every day. That school was not for me, and I have a lot of love for that girl that felt really, really lost and really, really defeated when she decided to leave Arizona within 2 weeks, and now understand that, like, no, she was onto something. That Arizona is just not my place. If it is for you, I love that. It's just not mine. And my rock bottom looks like coming home, feeling lost as ever, having no practices, having no routine, nothing to work for because I was no longer in school. All my friends were gone. I felt like I was supposed to be having this amazing, beautiful freshman experience, and I wasn't. And it broke me. One day I laid on my mom's lap and I cried and I told her, I no longer want to be here if this is what life feels like. I can no longer go forward in life if I have to deal with this pain every day. And I didn't know at the time, but not only did I have severe anxiety and depression, I also had a chronic pain illness called fibromyalgia, which was causing my whole body to spasm. It was causing me to not be able to walk straight, not be able to really walk at all. it was nasty. And it made me feel crazy, but I didn't even recognize it at the time. It took me a whole nother year to get diagnosed. I just knew I was in fucking pain. So much pain. At that time, my life looked like watching Grey's Anatomy all day and feeling accomplished if I got out of bed to do my laundry. I was 19. I should have been living, and I was slowly dying, honestly. And that moment that I laid on my mom's lap, after that, when I got up, I decided no fucking more. I had no clue how to pull myself out of that pit, but I was going to do it over and over and over and over and over and over again if I had to. And so I started to change really slowly. One of the first things I did was I got on medication. I luckily had a doctor that kept my medication really low, but that was the first step. Meds to just allow me some peace, to get my brain chemistry better. I started working out. I got a job. At the time, my brother was going to a community college in Chico, California, because that's the school he wanted to go to. And so he went and moved out there so that he could get into that school. And I took his lead. I decided I was going to go to community college in a city that I liked. I had to get out of my hometown. So I later moved to San Luis Obispo, and thank goodness for it. And that's where I started to learn more about like holistic health. I started to really look at my diet, which was horrible. I don't know how many doctors told me that if I fixed my diet, it would feel a lot better. And I was like, no, that can't be it. Yeah, it was so bad. I started to be able to walk again, sometimes run. And that looked like uphill battles. I mean, I would do really, really well, and then I would overextend and collapse. But I would always get back up. Always. And I also don't remember much of my time in San Luis Obispo because I was spending so much of it drunk. To the point where I would black out and walk home, and my friends would be like, "Where the hell did you go?" And that scared the hell out of me, but it didn't do enough. I continued moving forward. I, by the grace of the universe, was introduced to the University of Colorado Boulder. If you hear me say that I was a drinker and then hear that school, you're probably like, oof. But Boulder was a place of a lot of healing for me and also chaos. I was a full-on college student. I did the frat parties, I did the football games, but I started to find friends. And while I still missed a shit ton of school because I was still very ill, I started to get a routine. I started to go to the gym regularly. I became part of something. I was working towards something. Like I felt so much accomplishment in getting to work towards my degree at a school that I loved, that was gorgeous and beautiful. And I felt so held by the land. And like, even on the days that I felt the shittiest in Boulder, I felt better than I was in Tempe because I just resonated with that city, with that land, with the people around me. And I have so much love for both Slow and Boulder because they brought me healing. But it was incremental. It was still, I was still falling into a lot of bad habits. But I was succeeding. I was doing what I was told to do. I was getting good grades. I got to meet people I loved. And I was really fucking excited to get to graduate. I was so excited after I went to 5 schools. I know I only told you about 3, but 5 schools. I got to walk across the stage, get my diploma with my friends either by my side or watching me in front of the Flatirons, which are the most magical mountains I ever known, and just be rained in gratitude for how far I'd come. And there was an added layer to this graduation. My dad was going through his own mental health issues at the time, which he always was. And he told me that my graduation was what he was holding on to. He literally was choosing to live every day so he could watch me walk across that stage. And it just felt like everything was coming together, even without added pressure, which is not fair to put on a, 23-year-old kid, but even with that added pressure, I was so excited to celebrate myself, to celebrate that I finally fucking did it after years of pulling myself together. I'm so excited. My friends are so excited. We're talking about how we're going to party after. My family's going to be in town. It's going to be this big, big thing. And then March hits of 2020. And if you take the time, you'll recognize exactly what I'm about to hit on, which is my graduating class gets sent home because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We go from, hell yeah, we're a month and a half away from graduating. This is going to be the best thing ever, to go home. You're going to go live with your families. You can no longer be on campus. We don't know if graduation will happen. You'll still get your degrees. Sorry. So my graduation, this moment that I was thinking about for so long, was stolen from me. And let me make it clear, I know so many more people that had so much more pain in COVID, so I don't want to sound like an arrogant asshole, but like, we also have to recognize that there were so many people looking forward to something and it was stolen from them, and that hurts. That is a deep pain, especially when you worked so fucking hard for it. I worked so hard for that moment and it was taken. So I go home. Me and all my friends are like, what the fuck are we going to do? All the jobs that we're applying for evaporate because companies are shutting down left and right. And I'm sitting at my mom's house. And after this point, I had been talking to my dad. And originally he felt really, really sorry and bad for me. And then he started to spiral. He was like, oh my gosh, the world's getting closed off. We're getting shut down. Like, what are we all going to do? Which was ironic because he lived alone on acres of land with food and water. Like, he was in the most perfect situation for anyone because he was already used to all this stuff. Like, he literally practically lived a COVID regimen most of his life. But he started to spiral. And I remember just being like, hey, Dad, I can't talk to you. I can't talk to you right now. Like, I have too much on my own plate. And I went to the beach with my two dogs at the time. And I finally was like, okay, I've had enough space. And I texted him. And I was like, okay, I can talk now. Like, I love you. I'm sorry. I just needed space. And something told me in that moment when I sent that text that he would never receive it. Like, deep in my soul, I felt an absence. And that was on March, I think, 20th. Yeah. And so I don't hear back from him, which wasn't totally unregular, but yeah, I just, something felt off. Something felt wrong. So I'm sitting with my family on the couch. We had asked someone close to him to go check up on him because we don't live near him. And when he was drinking, he'd become pretty violent towards my family. So we asked someone that he was less hostile towards to just go see how he was doing. Didn't even have to make contact, just, give us he's doing well. And my brother calls us because he wasn't at the house with me and my mom. Calls my mom and she just drops to the ground. She's like, no fucking way. And I knew the second I heard her voice crack like that. I'd never heard her like that. I knew that second that my dad was dead. He had died of a heart attack, possibly days before, because he lived alone. And it was one of the most surreal moments of my life. I so well remember it, but it felt like a movie. Like, I was out of it. My mom's boyfriend drove us up there. We met the coroner, we met the cops, all that. And honestly, one of the only things I remember is, wow, the house is not that messed up. Because there had been times that I had walked into blood, shattered glass, crazy scenes. And this time the house wasn't that messed up. There was just bottles everywhere. And my dad on the ground and in a bag. And the emotions going through me, I could not understand. I don't know if I can understand because Here's the thing about growing up with an alcoholic father, especially one similar to my dad, that when he was in pain, he would verbalize, like, I don't know if I can be here anymore. I don't know if I want to be on this planet anymore. So when he died, there was a large level of such deep pain, more acceptance than I ever thought because I had grieved him for the last 23 years. And to the smallest essence, and it took me at least months, if not years, to wrap around this some relief. Relief that his soul was free of the cage of his body. His body was failing on him because of all the damage he had done for so many years with alcohol, with cigarettes, with just not thinking he was worthy of being taken care of. And that day was the hardest day of my life, but coming to terms with the mixture of emotion was one of the first times I realized how many deep layers of things you can feel at once and how much shame I had around feeling all those things. But today, like, I really don't know if my dad was meant to be on a soul on this earth for much longer. I had already from a young age knew he wouldn't be at my wedding. I knew he wouldn't meet his grandchildren, any of that. But that still fucking hurt. That shit stung, and it still does. And I still miss him. And also, a part of me is relieved to not have someone else running my emotions or having to pick up my phone and worry about the first exhale because I could tell if he was drunk or not. There are a lot of layers when you grow up with an alcoholic, and I will be using my voice to share what is normal. Because that day, my favorite person died, and so did my top abuser, at least emotionally. And that is a lot to hold at once. But another layer that took me a while to have integrate and received was when my dad died, I got financial stability. I no longer had to look for an instant job that I wasn't going to love. I no longer had to go into this hustle and grind. And that didn't mean I don't have to work. I will work and I can't live off of it forever. But I got stability. And years later, I realized this was the first time my dad was offering me a level of safety that he never was able to offer me in life. But it took me years to realize that. It took me years to let that land. So, end of March 2020, I'm sitting there confused as fuck. I don't even know how to feel about my dad's death. Honestly, it took me another 5 years to finally really start grieving him. I don't know what to do. There's no jobs out there. All my friends had to move home. I always wanted to move to Denver after school, but no one else could. But I have this inheritance. And I knew my dad would be the first person to say, just go do it, Chris. So I did. I moved to Denver. And because I didn't want to go take a sales job that I would dislike from home, I went and got an MBA. And I say that very casually, but yeah, I just was like, I can't physically stop moving. I can't physically process everything that's going on. If I slow down, this shit's going to hit me like a tidal wave. What should I go do? I'm going to go get another degree. And I'm very thankful. I have never used that degree. That we'll go into that later, but like I have never used that degree. But that time gave me the space to get on my feet. The one thing that was a gift about losing someone at the beginning of COVID was that the whole world was shut down, so I got to grieve and it didn't look unnormal. I got to be at home and in essence be in my own space. I had a roommate who I love. But the world actually literally stopped for the most part, unlike when most people experience a death. But I couldn't stop. So start studying. I go to the CU Denver for the next 3 years. I get my MBA in management for sustainability. I'm working out, I'm working, I'm just learning how to take care of myself. I'm still drinking. Once COVID stops, I'm raving, which was something that I had done for a while. Smoking almost like 5 times a day. Just being pretty disassociated, but showing up and doing the things we're told we're supposed to do. That's the whole reason I got an MBA, because I didn't know how to slow down and because I didn't want to go get a job. So what was the next step? Society said, another degree. Cool. That's what I'll go do. And during this time, I am getting healthier. I'm learning to eat better. I'm starting to be sick or having collapses less. And when I say collapses, I mean like literally physically can't move out of bed. I'm starting to get my practices that help me, and I'm starting to dabble with giving up alcohol. I would go, a week or two without it, started to really pay attention to how much weed I'm smoking. And I graduate with my degree. I'm looking for jobs in it, even though something feels off and messy. And all the jobs, when you actually come out of a sustainability degree, a lot of them are to make companies that are the worst offenders of the climate look good. It's like Amazon, they want you to think they're being sustainable. So they ask you, the person that just studied climate change and environment, to make them look good. And I refused. I had the ability to refuse because of what my dad had left me. So I refused. And I'm looking for a job. So I go and take this minimum wage job, ironically at a bar, but thrift store or consignment shop. I loved it because I loved thrifting and dressing up. And I met a lot of my friends in Denver by going to clothing not swaps, but clothing events. And I go take this job at a bar and I just feel so lost because I don't want to take a 9 to 5. I still don't want to take 9 to 5. And I can't find anything and yada, yada, yada. Um, I don't actually remember the day, but I'm giving up drinking slowly. I'm coming back into it, giving it up slowly. And the most I had ever done, I think, was 22 days, something like that. And I get to my 27th birthday. I have a birthday party. Honestly, it was fine. It was not that fun. A lot of people got way too drunk and were like in their own worlds. I felt like no one was present. And I was like, I don't like this shit. Like, I don't like this. And now that I've been dabbling with sobriety, I see what it's like to be present. So I gave myself one last day to drink. And I was like, okay, Christina, you're going to go 30 days, just 30 days without alcohol to prove it to yourself. So on August 7th, I gave up alcohol and I started to have a lot of clarity around it. And that wasn't instantaneously. Giving up alcohol is a whole endeavor, especially because I did it by myself. I didn't go to AA. I didn't get a support group. Like, besides for this app called Reframe, it was just me, this app, and my demons. I still was smoking weed, but I start racking up the days, and I don't remember the exact point, but something hit me in my head that said, if you want to respect your dad's life and make it worth something, you will no longer drink. You will do the thing that he was never able to do for himself because of what he's given you and because you just saw what would happen if you never give this up. Because I know I'll become successful. I know I'll make everything that I dreamed of. I was like my father, but he was able to make everything he dreamed of to the point where he created his own worst nightmare, which was dying alone. And I did not want that shit. Sometimes I think his life was literally the universe's gift to me to be like, will you wake up and see that you can go this way or you can go a different way? That you are him, but you also get him. as an example. And so that 30 days has now been 1,038 days without alcohol. I never looked back. I've had a sip here or there to try a drink in a different country, whatever, but it has never given me the same appeal. And that did not mean it was easy. Oh my God, months 3 to 6, when you start to feel your emotion again and your brain chemistry. We'll talk about that one time. I'll give you guys a whole giving up alcohol episode. But I give up alcohol. And something that I didn't mention was that in my graduate program, I got to go study abroad in London for 2 weeks. And then I got to go to Amsterdam and Mykonos with some friends. And I was like, wow, I really love traveling. I thought I didn't like traveling because I had gone when I was really sick and it was miserable because I was so unhealthy. And so instantly after that, I convinced my friend to go to 3 countries with me in the dead of winter to see if I would want to move to Europe. And I get it in my realm that I'm going to move to Europe. I want to move to Amsterdam. This is my life. Like, what am I going to do with it? But I had so much fear of what it would mean to move abroad. So go back to, we're getting a couple months sober. We're doing all the things. I'm still working this job that's a minimum wage. I don't really like it, but it gives me a way to be out of the house because I had been online for both my degree and my work prior. And I want to travel. I just want to travel more, but I have a dog, my dad's dog, the most amazing dog. I love Dingo Dongo. He's the best thing ever. And he was my excuse. He was my excuse for a really long time. And I don't regret that excuse because, again, best dog ever. But when I came home for Christmas, and that was 2023, he died back in Denver. I think he was waiting, when dogs try to die when you're not there to not put that heartache on you. He knew. He knew I was gone, but he knew I was always with him and my dad was always with him. And he finally let go. He was quite old. And that sucked. And it also became the first hard thing I ever had to go through sober, which I find so, I don't even say ironic. I don't really think things are ironic anymore, but so crazy because all my life when my dad owned the dog, I knew that the second that dog died, there was a good chance we would lose my dad as well because he would just not cope from that loss. And then my dad died first. And then I'm the one that has to really cope with the loss. And I do it sober. I was at 5 months at that time. And when I finally do get home after he dies, I'm like, shit, Christina, now you don't have an excuse. You have to go in on all your dreams. And my lease ended in May, the beginning of May. So I'm looking at January to May. I hate my job. I quit it. I'm just I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm not making any money anyway. I'm just doing this for shits and gigs and to feel productive. And I book a trip to Amsterdam. I book an Airbnb in Amsterdam for a month. And I'm going to go on my first solo travel besides a few days in Amsterdam that I had done earlier in that program. And so I have, what is that, 4 months of nothing. And oh my God, I will also do an episode on the wound around feeling like you need to be productive to be worthy because I went fucking insane. I knew that I would be moving to San Diego after my trip, so I was packing all my stuff, selling all my stuff, but I was going to 3 workout classes a day just to not be bored. I was applying to jobs in Denver, knowing damn well that I was moving to San Diego and would be traveling for what I thought would be 3 months. I just could not stop. So fast forward, I go on this trip. I'm in Amsterdam for a month because I want to see if I want to live there. I end up jumping countries for another month. While I'm there, I remember calling friends and being like, I'm supposed to be here for 3 months and I can't do it. I'm in so much physical pain. My nervous system was so off because there was no security. I didn't have any practice or regimens. So I'm just floating around, feeling no level of security, but also having so much fun. And I also went there to find my purpose. I did not find my purpose, but again, that's another episode. We'll go straight into that. So yeah, I go and jump around Europe for 2 months. I come home. I'm supposed to move in with a friend, but things fell through. But she's like, do you want to go to Asia? So we go to Asia for a month, and I'm looking for my purpose everywhere. I'm just trying to find myself, da 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 da. And I do none of that, but I have a great time. I don't want to discard it, but I will say if you're going on a trip to go find yourself, that's not the way to do it, in my experience. And I land in San Diego. And I get the apartment that I'm in right now. And not long into being here, I remember sitting on the couch and just bawling because it was the first time I felt fully safe. There was no one that could disturb my peace. No one was allowed in here unless I invited them in. No one's energy was here. Nothing. It was all mine. And I was going to create something from it. But I still had no fucking clue what that was. But one piece that I also realized, and I don't actually remember when I realized this, but the other aha I had was just like I was going to respect my dad's life by not drinking, the number one way to respect the opportunity he gave me by leaving me an inheritance was to find a purpose-driven career versus a job. I was not going to settle for a 9-to-5 where I made good money. I was going to find the thing that lit me the fuck up and helped other people. And I had no clue what that was. So I'm in my house, I'm moving stuff, I'm building shelves, and I start listening to Jay Shetty. And that's when I learned what a coach was. I thought you had to be a business coach or a fitness coach. But no, you could be a coach in anything. Trust me, anything. And I started doing all my research. I ended up finding Rachel Gibler, who ran the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast, and she was a light to me. She ended up being my first coach, and thank the Lord for her. I love her so much. I start getting certified. I am now on my 9th certification. I start really finding what lights me up. I found nervous system regulation. I find parts work. I've found somatic work. I found feminine work. And like, it is so clear to me that this is my calling and such a beautiful piece. And it's still coming all together. And I do coach clients from all the things that I went through. I healed my fibromyalgia. I'm no longer on medication. I have healed a lot of parts of me that felt so broken and shameful from being sexually assaulted multiple times. I healed parts of me that felt so much shame around my behavior, drinking, doing drugs, having meaningless sex, all those things. I've healed so many parts of me because I saw in my dad's life what happened if I ignored these. If I decided to just go for material success and not pay attention to these now, they would be the thing that killed me, and I would not accept that. So I diverged my path. I decided I'm going to heal these as much as I can. We're all still overgrowing, healing, transcending. Yes, yes, yes. I was like, I'm no longer ignoring this. And I did so much deep work. I've done 2 months of semi-isolation with no like media. So I was only allowed to listen to Spanish music. I did 6 months of full celibacy, not even talking to men. I have done so many different modalities. I've gotten my tongue pulled. I still do all this stuff. I still love all this stuff. And now I teach this stuff because it changed my life. But it was a conscious choice to continue to heal. It was a conscious choice that at 19, when I laid on my mom and wanted to die, I would no longer accept that. It was a conscious choice that when I would wake up from a blackout, I no longer wanted to accept that. And it was a conscious choice that I will do everything in my power to know that I am not alone when I do finally die. Even if I die literally physically alone, I will not feel alone like I think my dad did, even though we poured so much love into him. He didn't love himself. He had his own wounds, and no one else could heal that by him. And I decided that I would start that game today. And that's why I feel the call to be here on my couch speaking to you. because I don't want that for anyone. I want everyone to know that they live this life so loved. But the only way to do so is to love yourself. And that's the journey I've been on. That's the journey that I am 109 miles ahead on now than I was when I was 19. And that's the journey that I hope by listening, you can become one step further on, because you deserve love. You are worthy of love. And most importantly, you are worthy of your own love. And I will do everything I can to show you what that looked like for me, so you can hopefully do that for yourself, because it's a choice. I can't do it for you. Your spouse can't do it for you. Your children can't do it for you. But they can give you the glimmers so that you can do it for yourself. And I, with my whole heart, hope you do, because it has changed everything for me. And I would never go back. So if you are someone that needs support in this, message me at It's Christina Horn. I do hold a container that helps you integrate the pieces of yourself to give yourself peace and drop guilt and shame and really understand that you are an amazing, extraordinary human, mess and all. And I hope that my story resonates for you, that you can see parts of yourself in it, even if it's just one piece. I hope to continue to talk about what it's like to have issues with alcohol and to have been raised by someone that had very significant problems with alcohol use. And if any of this resonated, I would be so grateful if you message me or send a comment or just reach out in any way, because I'm going to let you know this is by far the hardest thing I've ever done. Something about putting this out on the internet scares the hell out of me, and I'm also refuse to react from fear anymore. So it's going. But know that I'm human. Know that this is scary, and I really hope that it helps at least one person. But I know it's helping me, and that's what, in the end of the day, I need to focus on. So I love you guys so, so, so much. You are so worthy of love. Never forget that. And till next time.